Right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to September's Inspire Book Club. And this August, we've been reading The Club, which is by Ellery Lloyd. It's a crime novel. It's I guess they call it a locked room mystery, and it's set on a glamorous island with lots of celebrities. It's written by husband and wife Colette Lyons and Paul Vlitos. So they've picked the pseudonym Ellery Lloyd, but they both work in the world of celebrity magazines, private members clubs, and that kind of thing. So they've got experience of working with celebrities. And although they say it's inspired by experiences, all characters are fictional. Although I think it was quite fun guessing who they might be hinting at in real life. So we can probably have a discussion around that one. And generally, it's been well received, and it's getting 4-star plus reviews. And it was also one of Reese's book club picks in 2022. So yeah, I thought it was an interesting read. But I'm going to hand over to you guys and just find out what you thought of it. Who's up for going first?
I'll go first, shall I? Yeah. I thought it was really interesting. Another word they use for it's close island. Island books have become quite common in the crime genre now, and I think this, as you say, because the authors have got experience in it, it added some credence to what they were talking about, and it made a lot of sense. I thought there was too many characters in it, and at times it was overly complicated. But because of that, it was well explained by the end of the book, and a lot of the times when you've got 2 or 3 hours before the end of the audiobook, when they're explaining it, that gives the book more credibility, because I get sick of getting to the end of a book and there's a twist in the last 20 minutes and you go, what the hell? Yeah.
It was interesting. I thought that it kind of about 3/4 of the way, and it started to reveal all these things that were happening and why people were doing it. And it wasn't a big reveal at the end, was it? It was kind of
No.
every chapter started to give a nugget of, right, okay, this is why this person's going after this person. Or so that was quite unusual, I thought, because I've read a lot of books where they reveal it at the end. So I quite like that.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was quite surprising with this book because I'd kind of decided almost before I started reading it, I probably wasn't going to like it. It didn't sound like my kind of thing. I was kind of like, oh, I'm not sure I'm going to enjoy this. But actually, I really quite enjoyed it. I mean, it was a bit light and fluffy, but I really enjoyed it. It read quickly. It was quite, I don't read a lot of, I suppose, can I say mystery, but I did quite like the way that you kind of had things revealed, not just at the end, like you had to have that kind of long, hard slog to the last page or the last chapter or something, So it was quite nice to have different things involved there. It was a little bit, I suppose, Midsummer Murdery in a way, because there was someone dropping dead like every other page at one point. But yeah, I thought it was really quite intriguing. I hadn't realised. I don't know whether it was in the end of the acknowledgements about the authors being. I didn't read that bit, so I don't know if it was in the book about them or their background. But it was quite interesting to find out they kind of are from. They kind of do work in the celebrity kind of world, because it did feel, that's probably what it's like. There's definitely celebrities like that, because I think most of the characters were probably repulsive in this book. So it did kind of feel, and it's quite nice to know that they did have that background and they must know people like this and know of people like that. And like you say, Claire, whether it was deliberate or not, or just the way my brain was working, I was linking certain people to certain people and going like, well, that does sound like I imagine that person's like that. But I don't know. But yeah, I really quite enjoyed it, actually. Yeah.
Well, I thought it was an easy read. I didn't like it going backwards and forwards personally, but I suppose that's just a mechanism, but I did in some ways enjoy getting the perspective of the different people. But then I didn't like the bit was it the Vanity Fair where they just sort of caught up with what was going on, because sometimes you had to go back a bit to work out exactly what was going on. And I think possibly because it was a bit like when you get a script and you've got a committee. It's definitely a committee writing that book. It wasn't one person. So I don't think you quite got the soul in the same way as you would if one person was writing the book. So it wasn't so, it was a bit more bland. I think it would make a good TV program. I think they were definitely writing it with a script in mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can certainly see on Netflix, can't you, or the BBC, or
Yeah.
some glitzy file or something.
Yeah, I can definitely think that they might get signed up and it might become a TV or even a film script. I definitely think they had that aim in mind when they were writing it. And I had to go halfway through and work out, because I didn't realise it was two people writing it.
Mm.
And then I suddenly realised it was more than one person. So I went back and did a bit of research. But what I want to ask people is, who do you think won out in the end? Were there winners at the end of the thing in terms of what actually happened? Because you've got the two brothers being killed, and then one of the women discovered who her child was and was relatively happy. But do you think any of them actually gained anything at the end of it?
I was thinking about, is it Nikki, I think, whose parents died in the car crash? And at the end, she finally exposes that is that the name? Annie was involved, because she gives them the video, and it, and I kind of thought, well, she's probably got her closure, because one of them's dead now, and the other person is now being picked up by the police, and the whole thing's sort of blown apart. So I kind of felt she got closure, but she'd been through an awful lot together.
Yeah, that was my feeling.
Yeah.
At the end of it, I thought, because if you have a crime novel or you have an investigation, normally you get a solution or whatever, and I was left with this feeling, well, did anybody win anything at the end of this? Did anybody gain anything? It's a good story, and it's a bit over. You've got these larger than life characters where they've taken bits of probably real personalities and put them together to make one character. They're a bit of several people, I would imagine. But that was my gut reaction. It's probably not the best book I've read, but it is easy to read.
Then the short chapters help.
Yeah,
because you're kind of like, oh, can I fit in another 2 pages? Yeah, I'll go on, I'll read another 2.
I'll go on and I can,
yeah. It's definitely, for me, it was kind of action over substance, probably. Which I think it's very televisual, like you say. It's very much like it's been written probably for a film or a script.
Yeah, and I think it's a book that possibly suits this time of year, maybe more than 2-3 months time in November. It does feel like a summer read. You can see people reading it around the pool, and because as you say, it's quite light and the short chapters, and you haven't got to have that huge concentration. And although there were quite a few characters in it, I always find it was quite handy. There was the kind of the reference page at the front with all the characters' names on and explaining who they were, and I used that quite a lot. And one of my although it's quite annoying with an ebook, because you have to go back to the beginning and try and you never find that too easy, but that was quite handy to remind me who was who. Particularly, I was getting Jess. I was getting Annie and Nikki quite confused for quite regularly.
It was easy to confuse the female sort of heroes or main characters, wasn't it?
Yeah, at one point. I think I confused Jess and Nikki earlier. It was Jess that had the parents in the car crash. Yeah, for some reason, all the way through, I confused those two. So,
yeah, they were quite difficult to kind of follow. And if you say if there were any winners, I'm not sure there really were. I suppose you could say Nikki and Jess are winners because they were still alive at the end.
Yeah.
But that's that's not much of a bar, is it? Saying whether probably they both went through humongously traumatic events, over their parents being killed, or pretty horrific kind of.
Or the woman who found her son and realised that she'd been conned somewhere along the line.
Yeah, so pretty horrific, kind of stuff, really. So I'm not sure they were winners per se, but certainly the bad guys, who wants a better way of putting it, seem to mostly get their comeuppance. I think most of the bad people got. I can't think of anyone didn't.
Did you think that the brother that was mistaken. The two brothers were mistaken for each other, weren't they?
Yeah.
They killed the wrong one.
Yeah.
Do you think the other brother was equally as evil as the one that should have been killed to start with? Because, you know, they were both running the club, but one of them was portrayed as this nasty character who had a short temper and all the rest of it. Do you think they were both deserved their comeuppance, or do you think it was one brother was just in the way, was in the wrong place at the wrong time?
I think the one brother was just in the way, as you say, because he was seen to be a bit more the stupid one.
Yeah.
That was great, yeah. But I think you need that sometimes. You need a character that there for the rest of the book to flow from. And if he wasn't there helping his brother out, there wouldn't have been a book. So,
Yeah, I think, you know, Ned, obviously the older brother, was just an awful man and deserved to be murdered and killed. You know, Adam, I thought was clearly a weak man. You know, he was continually, you know, betraying his wife. He was going along with things, you know, like Ned was doing these kind of, like, you know, covert surveillance on the people in their rooms. And, you know, he was, although he wasn't leading it, he knew about it, and, you know, so he's quite clearly a weak man, you know, and whether he deserved to die, I don't quite know, but he was clearly a weak and unpleasant man. So I wasn't too bothered when he got to
No, I wasn't. No.
How realistic do you think it was? Because the covert surveillance stuff, I was like, oh my God, do they really, what if that, you know, is that a real thing? Would they do that to people? And I kind of thought, like, it is larger than life. It's not real, but I wonder how many aspects of it
well,
are
the
potentially
covert
real.
surveillance thing is quite a common. I've seen it in at least 3 or 4 books. But
Right.
Given the number of crime books I read, I'm not the average person, so I would say that it's realistic, but especially on an island like that. If they're on an island, there's always CCTV involved somewhere. Because I was reading one written by Ruth Whale, when they were enclosed into a ski chalet. I think it's 1 by 1, and that happened in there as well. And then anything when there's a group of people turn up somewhere, there's always likely to be a camera or something hidden where you can reveal a secret later on. Though. There's always got to be a way for the writer to reveal, and that always seems to be a popular way to do it.
Yeah. So it's a plot device.
Yeah.
I mean, I was wondering, is there actually somewhere like the home places, you know, these private clubs, you know, for celebrities and the well-to-do, you know, do places like that? I mean, I guess places like that exist, but do places like that really exist? You know, I didn't, you know, I couldn't work out, because I guess we would never know, but I didn't know if these kind of
we don't hear of islands, do we? I mean, there's some of these private Caribbean islands, isn't there?
Yeah, not Virgin Branson, Richard.
He's got one, hasn't he?
Yeah.
But it's not a club. That's his own sort of island, which he lets celebrities on. Don't know how realistic it is, because we don't hear of that much like that, do we?
I don't think so, no. I mean, I don't know if anything exists like it really in real life, you know. I guess there might be somewhere like that, but I don't know how realistic it was, you know. So, I mean, they based it, the people who've written it based it on something, so there must be, I mean, we all know there's private members clubs, I guess there must be a bit like that.
If it's done well, if it's done well as a celebrity retreat, you wouldn't hear about it.
No, I guess that's the whole point, isn't it? You know, maybe they go away and they can, you know, because I guess if you do reach that level of fame, it must be quite nice to be able to go somewhere and hide and, you know, not be photographed or ask for whatever, or, you know, blend into the background. So, but no, yeah, I was wondering if that kind of place actually does exist. So,
well, they do actually mention somewhere that is often mentioned in the papers. The Priory was mentioned in the book, wasn't it? And that's a real drug rehab place where they all go.
Yeah, they do go there. Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely there, isn't it? I mean, that's because you hear that 4 or 5 times a year that someone's been scuttled off to the Priory for, you know, shouldn't laugh, because but for whatever reason, so you do hear about that. So you do hear about that place, don't you? But yeah, and I mean, the only other character I was kind of worried about was who was it? Not Ron Cox, his son Kurt Cox. He was kind of I didn't quite. We didn't really see much of him, did we? He was just always in the background. But, he was the only other kind of what appeared to be slightly half decent character, morally half decent character, but we didn't see much of him. So
People happy when they got cast of characters and you don't see. You've got characters that you barely see. Sometimes that frustrates me, especially in a long book.
Yeah, Kurt, he was brought in. I can't remember when he was brought in, but it was not much reference until the end, wasn't it?
Yeah, he was just kind of here, wasn't he? Really, and it was kind of he was trying to be black.
It's if we need him in, so let's put him in somewhere. But yeah, I mean, this is where I think it didn't. I'd have been happy if it'd been written by one person. I don't like books that are written by a committee. They very rarely work, but that's me. And I think from my point of view, it's much more like they were selling a script. They were selling an idea that they really wanted to get money from because it was going to be made into a film or a TV. The book was just a device for them. But I might be wrong. Have they written any other books?
They've written one more. I can't remember the name of it though. People Like Her, it's called. But I've not. That's not something I've seen or heard about. But
no,
is that
a?
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, it is. I've read the other one. Yeah.
Oh, is it any good? Is it a similar thing as Alex? Or?
It's similar kind of universe kind of thing. Yeah, not exactly the same, but it's can't really remember much about it, which is quite embarrassing. I interviewed the authors online about it. I shouldn't remember it. Very long ago, but the similar plot lines, but not exactly the same.
That's obviously their thing is the celebrity stroke approach to authors.
Just wanted to when I was thinking about the book, I was thinking what am I going to talk about, and I actually thought there's a genuinely funny scene, which is where now is it Nikki? It's Jess tries to give Jackson Crane sleeping pills and tries to kill him, and she thinks he's dead, but a day later he turns up at the party.
Yeah,
staggers into the doorway, and I just thought that on screen would be hilarious, just to watch this.
That's right.
Suddenly drag themselves out of whatever sleeping stupor they've been in for a day, and I just thought it'd be hilarious, and I kind of pictured somebody like Keith Richards or something.
Yes.
That's that's the image I got when I was reading the scene. But
yeah, you were relating these people to celebrities that you knew, weren't you, to sort of picture them and whatever.
Must admit, I really did enjoy that the drug scene you just talked about, because I thought that was really realistic, because drugs often have the safety mechanism in them that people can't kill, and the idea that you miscalculate the dosage so he wakes up is really realistic. I thought, yeah, happens a lot when people try and kill themselves.
Right.
You hear about it. Strange thing to I'm good about a book, really.
But no, I mean, what I liked about it was because it was a quick read. I do enjoy a quick read. Particularly this time of year, because August isn't so. I did enjoy the quick read. The short chapters were good. I didn't mind the back and fro so much in this book, but I'll agree, Claire, I don't usually like that. But for me, in this book, it didn't annoy me. So whether it was the setting, whether it was the way it was written, or maybe it was just the fact it was only going back and forward a couple of days. I usually struggle when you go back 20 or 30 years or to completely different characters.
Yeah, because the other book we read, the previous month, that was going back over a long time, wasn't it? And it
Yeah.
gradually got closer and
And
closer.
that annoys me.
This
I
one,
can't cope with that.
it was only sort of 2 or 3 days. And I suppose each time you went to a different person, the story did continue. So it wasn't as bad, yeah.
But yes, whatever book it was you read recently, that did annoy me, and I couldn't cope with it. I didn't know what was going on. So even with flicking backwards and forwards, I still didn't know what was going on or who people were. Or so that did annoy me. But this one didn't annoy me so much. I thought it worked.
The only bit I struggled with, I couldn't quite get the sense of the timeline. I was just like, is it Friday still? Is it Saturday? And I couldn't, and I don't know if it was linear or whether it did bounce around a bit. I couldn't quite.
Well, I'm hoping it's linear, but it could have been bouncing around a bit.
Yeah, it felt a bit bouncy, but I don't know. Maybe I just wasn't getting it.
And the people writing it, do you think they wrote it together, or do you think one of them wrote one chapter and then the other person came in and wrote a different chapter? Do you think the styles changed, or do you think they were genuinely writing it together all the time?
I didn't notice any change in the styles, but possibly there's a bit of disjoint sometimes.
Yeah.
The time sequence for me was the disjoint. Sometimes I just couldn't quite work out, oh, okay, is it the morning? Have we had the party? Is it before the party?
I didn't notice anything, like that. But I mean, it does. I always kind of wonder how you do write a book as a journalist. I understand. I can see how you write maybe, a smaller non-fiction book, but how you go about writing, a novel, I don't quite know how that works. So it does always make me wonder how they do it. So, and whether they split it up like you say, Claire, or they kind of sit around a laptop and do it together, or is there a leading writer and I don't really know how that works.
I know when authors write things, they have to sort of have more, they have to have a timeline, and they have to do other things that they don't necessarily put in the book. They have devices to help them with their writing, don't they?
Yeah, I've heard a lot about that from interviews and a lot of different ways authors cope with writing. Yeah.
Did you say you interviewed them, Alex? The writers?
Yeah, I
did
interviewed
they say how they wrote the books, or?
Yeah, it's they like I said about separate bits, I think, but with the editors and stuff. I would think that when they finished a bit, they get the reason that you can't really notice the style is because there's always another person involved, and that would be the editor. They smooth off the if there was a glaring errors, they'd smooth those off. I mean, I've just gone through that with me and an editor, and that's what their job is. So, yeah.
Oh, right.
Yeah. Because there's a lot of things going behind in a book that readers don't know about, which, yeah, very interesting.
Sounds good. Have we any more comments or observations on the book?
I don't think so, no.
Well, I would just generally say that the fact that there was only 13 chapters in the entire book, and the chapters on audio were 40 minutes long or 30 minutes long, and because of the way that the Inspire system did it on audio, it wasn't as easy to read as normal. But every time I've read it on borrowed box, the length of chapters wasn't easy at all because they were too long.
Right. The physical book is quite short chapters.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I think it was just because the book itself was a decent length. It wasn't overly long, but it's just the length of the chapters, because there's only 13 of them, didn't go well. Yeah. But that happens a lot with books with only a few chapters. It's not generally a problem with the book itself. It's just stylistic thing. So,
Yeah, the way that it's been recorded, or Borrow Box have decided to split the chapters up for the audio.
yeah. I mean, it's not the fault of Borrow Box at all. It's just the way that the authors are structured it, and then the way that because you're talking about winding it back and getting the bits at the front tell you where the characters are. That's not available on the audio version. So no way of knowing.
I think I would have struggled without that.
Yeah.
Even today, I'm sort of looking and checking who's who.
I had to write down the names from the
Did you?
run for this, because I was kind of like, I don't know who the characters were. I couldn't have given them a name. I'd have gone the main man, the honourable one.
Well, I had to go back. I went back to previous chapters before I went forward and reread bits, so that I got the characters fixed in my mind, particularly the two women.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were very interchangeable until the obvious difference between them came out kind of 2/3 way, where you realised, oh, actually, one of these isn't very nice, really isn't very nice, and you know, but until that point, they were quite interchangeable in my head. Anyway, it was like, oh, which one's which? Because they're both, I wouldn't say bland, but they were kind of bland characters until that point, and then like, oh, you know, there's obviously more to them than meets the eye. So yeah.
Well, I wouldn't say that they were that bland that it caused a problem with a single narrator, because sometimes if they're too bland and it's a single narrator, you can barely tell. But they were distinct enough to make sure that you knew who the narrator was, and every time they switched, it told you that it was a different person anyway. The authors made sure that you knew what it was. It just would have been easier if they were, as you say, more distinctive from the beginning. Yeah, I can't really think of anything else.
It's good. Should we rate it then out of 5? Alex, what do you think?
I'd say 4, and that was because of the fact that it had a longer reveal period than most books I read, which was a nice change.
Claire, what's your verdict?
I would rate it 4 out of 5 because it's fairly easy to ring. Oh, that's my phone going. I'm going to have to leave. Okay.
Thank you, Claire.
See you, Claire.
Bye-bye. Chris, what do you reckon?
I'd give it a 4 as well, I think. I'd give it a 4 as well. Yeah. It was quite an easy read. Yeah.
Yeah. I think I'm the same. Yeah. I wouldn't normally read it. Like you say, it's not something I pick up normally, but I like the speed I got through it and the pace, and it kept moving. It was good.
I must admit, it's quite nice to appear on a Zoom thing where it's harmoniously agreed with the numbers, because normally that's the bit where we differ, and there's normally at least one person in the group that doesn't like the book at all, which is
yeah. I think it might be the first time possibly ever, which is
Brilliant.
so four's, you know, that's 80%, isn't it? So we're giving it a high score there. So.
Good.
yeah.
Excellent. Right. Well, I think have we finished today?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's us.
Right. Well, thank you very much. And
No problem.
see you again soon.
Yes, indeed.
Bye.